Imagine a young student whose teachers repeatedly label him as slow. They look at his class performance and officially conclude he simply lacks basic intelligence. Or consider another boy expelled from school entirely. The officials sent him home because they declared his brain was incapable of understanding simple concepts. Those seemingly hopeless children grew up to be Albert Einstein and Thomas Edison, two minds that rewired how humanity understands physics and harnesses commercial electricity. This chart shows a common misconception, the belief that intelligence is a fixed number, locked into your DNA the day you're born and remaining static at ages 15, 25, and 50. But Edison and Einstein didn't experience a spontaneous genetic mutation in their 20s that suddenly made them brilliant. Their DNA remained the same as the day they were born. The brain functions as a highly malleable biological system, one that these historical figures rewired for the specific daily routines they chose to follow. Today, there is a widespread belief that growing your intelligence requires constantly consuming a massive volume of information. We fill every quiet moment with videos, podcasts, and articles. Yet neuroscience reveals a very different requirement. To actually process data and upgrade its capabilities, the brain requires periods of absolute zero external input. Albert Einstein engaged this process directly. He regularly took long, solitary walks in complete silence. He carried no books and took no notes, forcing his brain to rely on internal imagination. Charles Darwin applied a similar constraint. Despite producing volumes of complex biological research, he intentionally restricted his active working hours to a mere 4 or 5 a day. He spent the vast majority of his time away from his desk. He walked, he rested, and he allowed himself to embrace the feeling of boredom rather than fighting to stimulate his mind. This highlights a crucial biological mechanism. Your brain does not construct new architecture during the active sprint of reading or listening. The physical rewiring actually occurs during the quiet recovery phase. True cognitive growth happens in the deliberate silence between inputs. Chronic overconsumption of content actually deprives your brain of the space it needs to get smarter. Once you eliminate external noise, your brain is forced to actively organize the information that remains. This is where writing becomes vital. Many view writing simply as a way to record facts, but highly intelligent individuals use it as a mechanical tool to enforce deep thinking. Writing physically throttles your brain's processing speed. It forces a racing, chaotic mind to slow down and focus on constructing one clear thought at a time. Once you can clarify single thoughts, the next habit is intentionally studying diverse subjects far outside your primary field of expertise. Forcing your brain to find logical connections between completely different topics, like biology and economics, builds new, highly efficient neural pathways. High intelligence relies on an optimized neural network, prioritizing the speed and quality of architectural links between different ideas. To build those strong connections, your mind requires productive struggle, the concept that the brain only adapts when it meets heavy resistance. If you are working on a problem and immediately look up the answer the moment you get stuck, you bypass that resistance entirely. You rob your brain of the friction it requires to learn the underlying pattern. Benjamin Franklin engineered this friction deliberately. He would read a complex essay, hide the source text, and then struggle to reconstruct the author's logic completely from memory. We often treat memory as an innate talent, but memory is a muscular skill. It requires the heavy lifting of repeated failure to grow stronger. The ultimate form of this mental weightlifting is active output, taking newly learned information and forcing yourself to actively teach it to someone else. Biological intelligence strengthens exclusively when it is forced to actively generate output against resistance. The modern environment encourages passive consumption, but historical inventors relied entirely on quiet reflection, intense friction, and deliberate active work. You have the immediate power to override your current cognitive limits by adopting this specific cognitive operating system. Step away from the screen. Embrace the discomfort of solving a problem without looking up the answer, and allow your brain the absolute silence it needs to upgrade its pathways. Practice the friction of active output right now. Use the comment section below to write down one specific concept you just learned from this video without scrubbing back to rewatch it. True genius represents an intentional architectural project, one that you choose to build and refine every single day.